Hey guys, it's Jessica and welcome back to my YouTube channel and blog, depending on where you're watching this from. Today I'm using some uniquely creative stamps and dies from the Advent gift box. I had showcased this on my Instagram feed back in December 2018. So first off though, I'm going to be using some Distress Oxide inks to make a background. I'm using the glass media mat and a round ink blender. I'm going to cover this entire piece of Neenah 80-pound cardstock. These are A2 size card panels that I have pre-cut. And even though this Distress Oxide ink blend of the antique linen looks a bit splotchy, I'm going to blend over the top with frayed burlap, which is a little bit darker. I'm using a post-it note to keep my left hand from making fingerprints in the blended Distress Oxide ink. It's just kind of a good little tip there. I blended the frayed burlap on the outer edges, and now it's time to add some water droplets. I like to use the Distress sprayer to get those really large drops, and you do this by squeezing the trigger on the bottle just a little bit. If you squeeze the trigger fully, it is a lot finer of a mist, more of a spray. I'm letting the drops sit for a moment so that the ink will react with them. You could let this air dry, but I'm going to ink blend even more over the top, so I'm heat setting it with my Wagner heat tool. That way it's a bit quicker of a process. Now I'm going to blend the same inks over the top of that using more of the frayed burlap to darken the edges and a little bit of antique linen in the center. And then again, I spray it with water, but this time I'm going to blot those drops up with a paper towel. The difference in doing it this way than just heat setting it is that the water drop splotches will be a bit lighter. So while it dries, I grabbed some watercolors. I'm using the Starry Night palette. This one has a wider range of gold colors, and I made a swatch to keep with the paints so that I can easily see what the colors will be. One of my favorites is the Champagne Gold, which is the one I will be using to splatter my ink blending with. I use a water brush and a small bowl to mix the paint. When I have a good consistency, I tap the water brush with my other hand to create shimmery gold drops. These drops are hard to see but really catch the light and don't necessarily shimmer, but they do more of that like flash of gold. It's really stunning. Now I wait for that to dry, and I'm just splattering with all the things on this one. Like everything is going into this background. I really wanted a nice neutral color background with lots of texture in it. The Copic Opaque I use the same way as I did when splattering the Champagne Gold. I water it down with a water brush, and I use that to splatter on the white drops. You could also use a old toothbrush. Okay, so this stamp set from Uniquely Creative, the mini Alpaca builder, is one of the ones that came in the Advent calendar box, like I was talking about in the very beginning of this video. I believe you can still find these on the Uniquely Creative website, but if you're wanting to recreate this design, think about what stamps and dies you already have that you could use. That is the great thing about videos and blogs, Instagram. You can use them as inspiration for your own supplies. And I'm really digging this alpaca set. There is also a variety of eyes to stamp with them. So I used two of the more fluttery eyelash stamps. And I love the orientation of them around the cardstock like this. I might have to revisit that idea later. But for this card, I'm going to watercolor them and die cut them out. I love that Uniquely Creative calls their dies fussy cutting dies. That just cracks me up. And I guess I should say that I'm using Canson watercolor paper for this. It's a really inexpensive watercolor paper and it does fantastic. I'm using the distress ink cubes as watercolor paints. I love how versatile these inks are, and apparently I wanted to use the neutral colors more. I have been using a lot of bold, bright colors lately, so I'm going to tone it down a little bit with these more neutral colors. So I just squished the ink pads onto the glass media mat, then use my water brush to pick up some of the color and just start painting each alpaca in. Each one will be a little different. I used antique linen, old paper, frayed burlap, and brushed corduroy for the distress ink colors. There's also a list of colors below in the description box and also on my blog if you want the full product list. This stamp set also has a flower bunch stamp. I'm just going to stamp and heat emboss these the same way I did with alpacas. You can see these alpacas already die cut off to the left. I love coordinating dies. I don't have a machine that cuts, so I do depend on dies or fussy cutting stamp images. I don't mind fussy cutting. I've gotten pretty quick at it, so I might be quicker than the machine. That would be an interesting test to do. Using my stamp platform and the Gina K Amalgam ink, I stamped the Scripty Congratulations stamp. This stamp is in the Mini Occasions, also from the Uniquely Creative and from the Advent Calendar box. I'm trying to use the supplies from that Advent box for this card. I'm going to pair several words and small sentiments together to create my card sentiment. The other set I used was the Mini Brilliance Sentiments. It's really fun to mix and match your sentiments, and these have some really great fonts to do that with. I'm using Abandoned Coral Distress Oxide ink to stamp the incredible word onto a Nina 110 pound card base. I used the same ink color to watercolor the flowers with, but it was the Distress ink version. You could stamp with the Distress ink, but I never seem to have good results. It's always a little blotchy. So off screen, I took the neutral ink blended background and die cut it using a couple rectangle dies. I really didn't know how I was going to use that until I got to this point. But I will keep that inner piece for something else because it's so pretty. I also used a couple of the rectangle dies to cut a very thin ultra blue, I believe is the name of that cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. And I just made a very thin frame. Using multimedia matte glue, I adhered some white foam scraps behind the larger frame, then attached the thinner frame to the outside of that. These are going to go right over the top of the Nina 110 pound card base that I stamped the incredible word on. I've kind of situated where I want the alpacas to go, and I'm using some EK Success foam squares to pop them up. These are a little bit thicker than the circle ones I have, and they're also a little thicker than the fun foam that I use too. Then I add the flower bunches over the top, just below the alpacas, so it kind of hides that odd line of where the heads begin. I also cut the sentiments down to small strips off camera, and I just used my tonic trimmer to do that. So I hope you enjoyed this cute alpaca card. Uniquely Creative is a Australian-based company, so shipping is a bit expensive to the States, but they have some great monthly kits, and I really love their Advent gift box. They put that one out for December in 2018, and I'm hoping they will do it again this year. If they offer it, I will probably get it. I did just do a giveaway on my Instagram for some of those items that were in that Advent calendar box, but it is only because I knew I wouldn't be able to use everything. Not with other supplies I have and design team projects I have going on. Which reminds me, I need to do a giveaway here on my channel. Again, February 1st marked my first year anniversary on YouTube. I've slowly figured out exactly what I want this to be, and I've changed a lot of things throughout this whole year. But I totally missed that 1 year anniversary, but I'll figure out something fun to celebrate with, so stick around for that. And thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Meh, meh.